Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Invisible Condition. It's not all in your head. I'm your host, Jeff Pearson, and we want everybody with an invisible condition to know beyond the shadow of a doubt, you have a voice and you have a community and you are never, ever alone. Here on Invisible Condition, we know that things can be tough, especially living with a condition that nobody else sees. I get it. We also know that there is always hope. And that's where we like to live here. We like to live in the world of hope, because if you don't have hope, honestly, you're almost dead in the water already. So we talk about hope a lot around here. And I hope that you love it as much as we do. So I want to talk about a couple of things before we bring our amazing guest on today. And one of them is our nonprofit, which is called the nonprofit arm of our show is called Hydro with Hope. And that is an organization that benefits people with the condition I was born with, which is called hydrocephalus. And hydrocephalus for millions of people around the world can be really, really difficult. And there are hundreds of thousands of babies born with it every single year. And they all have one thing in common, and that is brain surgery, and usually repeated brain surgery throughout their lifetime. Myself, I've had 7 so far, starting at 2 weeks old, and my last one was about 3 years ago. So I get it. It can be tricky. And so Hydro with Hope is there to help families that are dealing with the ins and outs and craziness of a condition that requires brain surgery every once in a while. And we have a journal that we'd love to get in the hands of everybody with hydrocephalus called My Hydro Warrior Story. However, our funding has run short, and we are actively, passionately looking for more board members so that we can grow this organization to the point that we don't run out of money anymore to be able to provide these journals and the other services that we provide with Hydro with Hope to those families with hydrocephalus. So if you or anybody you know would be interested in helping us with that, I would invite you to send me an email at this address, invisiblecondition@e360tv.com. And I'd love to have a conversation with you. Same email if you know somebody that would love to advertise. We have some amazing advertisers and sponsors right now, and I would love to meet anybody that, is passionate about what we do and passionate about what they do and wants to share it with our audience. So bring it on. I'd love to talk to you about that and see how we can make it work and get your message to our amazing growing audience. All right, now on to the fun part. Suzanne is our guest today, and I was gonna say her last name, and we were talking about this before the show. She said my name's kind of tough for people to pronounce. I said, okay, I might brave it, I might not. I'm going to let her pronounce it because I don't want to get it wrong. But her name is Susanne. She's amazing. She is an ADHD writing coach who started her company, Passionate Writer Coaching, to help writers with ADHD achieve their writing goals. So I'm not a writer and I don't have ADHD, but I can't imagine that combination. That seems like a really tricky combination. So this is amazing. Despite living with ADHD, Susanne has a master's degree from the University of Amsterdam in cultural analysis. She uses the skills she learned from this degree to, help writers to up-level their writing, especially ADHD writers. So, just because ADHD can make it a challenge to consistently work on large projects doesn't mean it's impossible. So Suzanne has helped hundreds of writers do just that. And I can't wait for you to meet her. Let's bring her on the show and hit the ground running here. Suzanne, thank you so much for being here. I so appreciate it. And please pronounce your last name for everybody, because I didn't want to butcher it.
It's absolutely fine. My name, there's not a lot of people in the world who can actually pronounce it, because it is Latinized Frisian, which is a minority language in the Netherlands. So it is very hard to pronounce, but It is Susanne Schotanus.
Yeah, we were talking before the show, and you said you can brave it if you want. Here's how you pronounce it. And I even put a little phonetic thing on my no. Right. I wasn't even going to go there. So thank you.
So usually I just go by Susanna.
That's awesome. That's what we'll go with right there. So Suzanne, I have a question that I want to ask you that I ask everybody that comes on the show, and it's a question that I love and that there's no wrong answer to. And what I want to know is, in the throes of the craziness and there's always good days, there's bad days. On those not so great days, how do you still maintain hope?
That's a really good question. And the coach in me wants to say, we all have this strong negativity bias, and that is true for ADHDers more than for anyone. And my theory is always that if your brain remembers the negative 3 to 5 times more than the positives, then what you need to do is you need to actively seek out 3 to 5 more positives than you do negatives to kind of balance the scales a little bit. So even if everything is a struggle, there's still successes. Sometimes, let's be honest, if you have a certain invisible condition, just getting out of bed can be a triumph. Sometimes working in bed, for me, can absolutely be a triumph. So I think that it really is, the coach in me says it is all about the positives and negatives. The person, sometimes that's hard. Sometimes you just lose hope for a bit. And luckily, I am in a position where I usually wake up the next morning with a tiny little bit more hope than I went to sleep with the night before.
Love it. That's perfect. Yeah, it's true. I do the same thing. Don't tell anybody. But that's yes. Sometimes it's not hope for the day. It's hope for this 10 minutes, or for this hour, or for this phone call, or this conversation. So yeah, I totally agree.
Right.
Well, let's dive in here. You ADHD is what we're talking about today, because that is what you're passionate about, because that's what you're helping people with. And it's obviously ADHD has been so misunderstood and almost been overused, and like people that don't really know what it is are calling it something, and like, oh, I have ADHD, don't worry, it's and it's really not. And it's straighten that out for us, especially in adult women. That is a big misunderstanding. Adult women with ADHD, it's a big deal. To straighten us out here, how do you, what are some of the symptoms, and how long did it take you to recognize that was what you were dealing with for you?
The history of ADHD is a very strange one. Sometime in the 80s, they kind of started labeling it, but it's clearly been misnamed. Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. ADHDers do not have a deficit of attention. Some of us deal with hyperactivity externally. For women, that's usually not the case. And the problem is that ADHD was really recognized in young boys in schools who were hyperactive, who couldn't sit still. And that is what the diagnostic criteria were based on. And it is only really in the last 20 years that researchers have started to realize that there are different kinds of presentations of ADHD, and that often ADHD presents different in women than it does in men. And that is how women often, a lot of men too, who don't have the standard normal presentation, but a lot of women fall through the cracks. Yeah. One, because it's not entirely clear why they present differently. There's a theory that it is socialized, like women are supposed to behave in a less hyperactive way, and then they internalize the hyperactivity, and the hyperactivity takes place in their head rather than externally. There's a lot going on there. But in addition to that, there was also the belief that ADHD is something you grow out of. And it is only a couple decades ago, a couple of years ago, that researchers started to realize you don't grow out of it. You learn to manage it, which means that you no longer present in the same way that a 7-year-old boy does. So there's a lot of problems there in the diagnosis, and they're still learning what ADHD can look like, how it affects women differently than men, because women are usually excluded from studies into ADHD for a whole host of reasons that I don't necessarily have to go into right now. For me, however, the situation was a little bit different because I am one of the few women who did not get diagnosed because their sons did, which is what's going on right now. A lot of women in their 30s and 40s are getting diagnosed because their children get diagnosed, and we now know that ADHD is genetic. So usually the parents are tested after the child is diagnosed, and that is how these women are being diagnosed right now, which is why we see a veritable wave of women in their 30s and 40s suddenly getting a diagnosis. I was lucky in that I got my first diagnosis, age 13.
Oh, wow.
The downside of that is that when I was first diagnosed, the only thing they could tell me about ADHD is sometimes you have a hard time focusing. And if you take this medication, maybe that can be resolved. In fact, ADHD affects so many different things. It affects time management. It affects moods. It affects energy. It affects a lot of different things. And that is not something that they knew back then. So I decided not to take the medication. And that means that the diagnosis had absolutely no effect whatsoever, no consequences whatsoever. And people kind of forgot. So I got re-diagnosed at age 21.
Was that good that they forgot? I mean, if it wasn't, I mean, you said it's, it can be kind of internal sometimes, but I mean, if you get diagnosed and then people forgot about it, was it because because the symptoms weren't obvious, or was it because and then you got re-diagnosed?
We didn't know what the symptoms were yet.
Yeah.
The only symptom that they really were sure about was sometimes you have a hard time focusing, and there was nothing we could do except take medication. So this diagnosis just had no effect on my life whatsoever.
Because you didn't want to take medication. And by the way,
I took the medication. I realized that it made me very hard and very aggressive and angry, and that is not the kind of person I was. So I thought I would rather retain my personality and focus a little bit less than the reverse.
Yeah, well, and I'm sure your friends and family and those who love you appreciated that, because yes, medication can do medication for a variety of conditions can do a variety of things that is not great. And thankfully, in 48 years on this planet, by the grace of God, so far, I have steered away from medication as well. With my condition, it's very common to have medication for various things, various co-conditions that come along with it. And so I'm with you, is all I'm saying. I applaud you for not relying on the medication if you didn't have to.
I don't have any morals. I don't have any problems with medication as a concept. I think that I am a big fan of anything that can help.
Right.
If you take medication and makes your life easier, by all means, go ahead. I just realized that for me, the medications didn't do what I wanted it to do, and I had a choice to not take it.
Right. No, I get that. And I agree. If I mean, there's people with conditions that, in fact, there was a couple of people that I've had on the show with bipolar, and they say, look, you don't want me without medication,
Right.
It's really a bad idea for me not to be on medication. And so there are some out there. Yes, I agree. I mean,
the reason why I really stress this is because I know that there's this whole discussion going on that ADHDers are over-medicated. I don't think that's necessarily true. There's also a whole conversation about how ADHD is overdiagnosed, which is also not true. Because researchers think that about 10% of humans have ADHD, but currently only 3% is diagnosed. So the fact that we see a whole wave of new diagnoses just means that we're bridging that gap of 7% undiagnosed ADHD, and therefore unsupported, unmedicated, untreated ADHD.
Yeah.
So that's the reason why I did have to mention there that I do not object to medication for ADHD. It's a personal decision.
No, I get it. And I agree. Yes, exactly. If it's working for you, I mean, work it if it's working for you. You know what I mean? Yeah. Personally, like same thing. Personally, I didn't want to be. I've temporarily, been given medication for a couple times over the years, and I did not like the effect. That same thing. I didn't like the effect it had on me, and so I stopped taking it and didn't look back. But that's not it's not everybody's story. So, yeah. Well, and I just want to throw this out there to those of you who are watching, to the audience that's watching. Thank you for being here, by the way. We love you, and we love that you're here and that you're watching and soaking up all these amazing stories. And I want to just throw this out there. If you are watching on either of these platforms, Facebook or YouTube, please throw a comment in there. If you have a question, if you're like, oh, me, I just heard something I totally identify with. I wasn't sure, but yeah, I have a question. Comment, ask a question, and or scan this QR code and go to that website, and there will be something there for you. Susanne, can you just tell everybody what they'll go to, what they'll find when they go to that QR code?
Well, yes, you will find a page that I have created specifically for fans of your show. And what you're going to find there is a workbook that will help you overcome a common challenge for ADHD writers. Now, if you have problems with focus, with concentration, with motivation for a variety of reasons, then these workbooks that I have created will help. Now, I have not yet decided which of my workbooks I'm going to put up there. It might be that something that Jeff and I are discussing today is going to inspire me to create something specifically for you. But you will, on that page, find a free guide that you can download and that will help you be more focused and achieve your writing goals.
Love it. And that's and that is something we're going to talk about more on the other side of the break. We're going to go to a break in a couple of minutes. We have a little bit of time, but I want to make sure that we set that up because on the other side, because yes, ADHD is a thing, and you are doing some amazing things in spite of it. And this is part of it. You are coaching writers, specifically writers with ADHD. And so, which I think is pretty awesome, which honestly, I had no idea that there was a large enough segment of the population that was even in that boat. That, I mean, you learn something new every day. So yeah, I mean, how many people out there, how many people have you run into that are in that category?
Hundreds. And I don't think that I have met them all yet.
I'm sure.
The reason is that if 10% of the population has ADHD, and ADHDers tend to be more creative, and we live in a world where we have to write so much. We have to write emails, we have to write social media posts, we have to write, I don't know, whole websites if you're like me. But there's also people who are academics, or they are activists, journalists, content creators, which are all the kinds of jobs that ADHDers are actually attracted to, because there's a little bit of risk involved. There's a little bit of excitement. There's always something new to discover. That is where we tend to be drawn to. But that does mean that we need to write. And until I started my business 5 years ago, I don't think there was anyone in the world who actually specifically coached people with ADHD on how to write and how to keep themselves writing when their brains wanted to jump to the next exciting thing, but their boss told them there was a deadline, right?
Nice.
So I work with professionals who need to write. I also work with a lot of people who have a passion for novel writing, or who are writing their memoirs, because a lot of us have had very exciting lives and have a story to tell. So there's a lot of different people that I work with. I do not limit myself to any type of writing. I've kind of found that anyone who has ADHD and wants to write pretty much runs into the same challenges that I now specialize in. Nice.
I love it. And we will talk more about that on the other side of the break, because there's so much more to get to. Everybody stick around. Don't go anywhere, because you got more coming. That's all I'm saying. You got more to the story. So stick around, and we will see you on the other side of this break.
Hey there. You know, every time someone comes into your business or website and uses their card to pay, a percentage of that gets folded back into the system. But it can go to Hydro with Hope instead. If you'd like your business to support us rather than feed back into the system, scan the QR code and we'll show you how to do that while saving your business money.
Hey everyone, Coach Greg here from Living Empowered TV, where we help women live empowered lives through amazing guests, life hacks, mental, physical, and emotional health. See us on the Achieve Network, 12 o'clock Wednesdays Pacific time on E360 TV. Don't miss out.
Hey, everybody, I put the wrong one there. There we go. Now we can read it. That's perfect. All right. Welcome to live TV, everybody. Sometimes I hit the wrong button. I want to talk to you about Invisible Condition University, or ICU for short. Invisible Condition University empowers you to face whatever invisible condition that you or a loved one may be facing by providing a community that listens, that cares, that walks with you no matter what you're going through. You'll be part of a community that meets twice a month, 2 times a month, so that you can have a safe place for you or your loved one or your caregiver or your sister or your mom or whoever's helping you with your care that you want to bring along with you to this call, to ask questions, get support, or just find some hope, This is something that I wish my family and I would have had 10 years ago. Since 2013, I have had 6 surgeries, 4 of them brain surgeries. And once we left the hospital, they forgot our name. There was not a lot of help. You couldn't just pick up the phone and ask them questions. That's why ICU is here. Invisible Condition University is super inexpensive. We're only $17 a month. And you know what? I'm gonna throw in a free month for anybody that scans this QR code or goes to invisibleconditionuniversity.com. Come check us out for free for a month. See what you think. Join us for a couple of calls. And it's like the first and third Tuesday of every month. Join us and let's see how we can help you. Go to invisibleconditionuniversity.com or scan the QR code. And I can't wait to see you there. All right, let's bring Susanne back on the show. There we go. Hello. Thank you again for being here. This is awesome. And this is a niche that I didn't know was a niche. So this is good stuff. You'll learn something new every day. So by the way, if you missed the first segment, go back and check it out because it's good stuff. And if you are watching on Facebook or YouTube and you run into something that you have a question about, throw it in a comment and we will get it to Susanne so she can answer it, and or scan this QR code. And there is a free resource available there that Susanne has created tell us again it's for writers with ADHD. Is that
yes.
The resources? What? Go ahead and say it again.
It is a workbook that you can download for free that will help you stay more motivated and stay more focused when you are writing. So whether you have ADHD or not, I know that there's a lot of different conditions, a lot of different medications that can affect the same areas of your brain that ADHD does. So just because you don't have an ADHD diagnosis doesn't mean this isn't going to help. There's going to be a workbook that will help you stay more focused and more motivated so that you can achieve all your writing goals, whether that is writing more emails, writing your blog, writing your memoirs, or whatever else you can imagine.
Love it. Man, in this day and age, who doesn't need to write stuff somewhere, right? Like you were saying, emails, blogs, social media, whatever. I'm certainly not a writer, but I'm on social media plenty. So that's good. That's perfect. I love it. And your business, let's dive into that a little bit because we alluded to it a little bit before the first break here. Passionate Writer Coaching. What was the inspiration behind that? Why did you create that?
I have ADHD myself, and that means that I almost started this business accidentally. Um, a couple of weeks ago, at the end of May, it was my 5-year unofficial business anniversary, which means that it's been 5 years since I started working. I actually registered my business in October of 2020. So I worked for a couple of months before I realized, oh wait, I've actually started a business. Let's make it official. What I did when I started was I actually helped people get book contracts. I wrote book proposals that you have to send to literary agents or publishers, because I had been the director of publications of a research network and I knew how to do that. I thought this is a marketable skill. It is now 2020. COVID has hit. I got married on the first day of social distancing in the Netherlands, got stuck at my parents' place as a newlywed. I had to do something, so I might as well make use of this marketable skill, right?
Nice.
So I started doing that. Then I started expanding by adding editing and other writing services. I started coaching, and I soon realized that actually I preferred coaching people who were neurodivergent, whose brains were just a little bit different from other people's. I also knew how to motivate myself, how to actually help myself achieve goals as an ADHDer. So everything kind of blended together, and passionate writer coaching organically emerged.
Love it. And it's funny because and I don't know, maybe I'm just more, I noticed, I don't know, where are you in the world now? Where do you live again?
I'm living in Italy.
There you go.
Yes.
It's everywhere, people. There's like, it's not just a US thing. It's I know we hear about it a ton in the US, but it is everywhere. ADHD is a global thing. It's not just here. So yeah. Is it different? Is it treated different? I mean, I'm guessing it's treated differently there than it is here. Do they just automatically go the medication route, or do they have other methods that they do first, or what are how is it treated in Europe?
Good question. So when I was first diagnosed, that was years ago. So I can't say a lot about what is going on right now in the Netherlands and Italy. I do know that there's a lot of researchers working in the Netherlands on ADHD, and I have a suspicion that might affect the medical professionals as well. I don't actually have any clients in the Netherlands either, so I don't hear any stories. What I do know is that, for example, in the UK, there's a lot more understanding of it in the workplace. So there's a lot more government-sponsored programs that will pay for people to hire me, for example.
Oh, nice.
And they call that access to work. So the government will help pay for services that give people access to work and help them to actually keep a job.
That's awesome. Did I say? I'm sorry, my brain just completely skipped a beat. Did I say Netherlands? Did I, or did you say that? Did I?
I think we were juggling countries at this point.
I think it was. I don't know why I said Netherlands, because you're not in the Netherlands. You're in Italy.
No, but I'm Dutch. So I was first diagnosed in the Netherlands.
Oh, well, there you go. Okay, so I'm not imagining. I'm not going crazy. Okay, all right.
I'm Dutch. I lived in the Netherlands. I was diagnosed in the Netherlands. Then I met my American husband in the Czech Republic, and I moved to Italy. Yes.
There you go. Okay, sorry. My mind just exploded for a second there. Okay, I just want to make sure. All right, good. Whew, all right. Thank God I'm not imagining that. Okay, good. So specifically with writers, how do you, because I know, like you said, very creative bunch, very, so no wonder that that's such a great niche for you. How do you help them identify, how do you help writers specifically identify that ADHD and that those invisible like barriers that creates? How does that work?
Hard. And you know why? The reason why it is hard is that one of the big lies that we ADHDers have always believed about ourselves is that the reason why we struggle is we're just not trying hard enough. And that means that when someone is struggling, they will tell me, oh yes, I just haven't written because I'm stupid. I just haven't written, and the solution is that I just need to write. without acknowledging that actually it was ADHD that made it hard for them to show up, or that made it almost impossible for them to show up. So for me, a big part of my job is to just point out, oh no, this is a symptom. I often joke that I need a big neon ADHD sign behind me and a big red button that I can hit anytime anyone says anything that is actually an ADHD symptom. But yes, this is even with social workers in the States who work as therapists, or therapists who were trained to diagnose. Even they themselves, when it is about their performance, will blame themselves rather than acknowledging that actually there is a very good medical reason for them to behave the way that they do.
Man, there's so many conditions like that. Not to minimize what you're talking about with ADHD specifically, but man, there are so many people with conditions out there that's the case. You know, it's like getting the diagnosis is almost like freeing, because it's like, oh, thank God, it's not just me. It's not me. I mean, it's not my downfall, my deficits. There's actually an explanation for this. You know,
there's an ADHD content creator who calls it GROY. It's a combination of grief and joy. On the one hand, there's joy. Now, finally, I have an explanation. Maybe it wasn't me after all. But there's also grief. If I had just known this before, or if the world had just understood this before, then everything could have been so different. So she describes this as GROY.
Or grief of the what maybe grief of your lost, like what you thought you were going to do with your life, but now with this diagnosis, now you've got to do some. Maybe you're going to do something different because you realize that this life isn't for you anymore, and you're grieving the loss of that. Maybe, I don't know. There's so many things, you know.
It is the loss of an imagined life. I can completely see that. It's the same as the end of a relationship. Even if you know that it is the right thing, it's still a potential future that you are just missing now.
No, it's true. Yeah, and that's true with just about any condition, whether you're born with it or whether you're diagnosed with it in your 60s. You know, there's still that mourning period or that loss that you feel, even if it's not if you're born with a condition, you might not feel that loss until later, when you look back and go, oh, wait a second, if I hadn't had this, I maybe could have done this or this or this. But it's true. It's a thing. It's some people don't acknowledge that, and it kind of makes their life difficult. You know, acknowledging that is so helpful. In that regard. I mean, I don't know. Is that something you struggle with? Sorry, go ahead.
ADHD is a little bit different in that. Okay. I had this discussion with a few ADHD coaches the other day. What I described was a lot of people are diagnosed late in life. But as I said, I was diagnosed quite early. It's just that when I was diagnosed, we didn't know anything yet.
Right.
So people who are diagnosed late in life often go through the GROY roller coaster. There's grief and joy and grief and joy, and it just keeps going. For me, that was all a lot more spread out, which is great because I don't like roller coasters. So it was more like ocean waves, I think. Because every time we learned something new about ADHD, I had that piece of joy and grief. I had this is not my fault either. Oh, wait, this is not caused by me not trying hard enough either. This is actually part of what I've been living with my entire life. For me, it's been a 20-year process of discovering more and more about what is going on in my brain and how it does affect me. Yeah,
it's true. That, I mean, it almost never stops. You're always discovering. It's like the onion, peel off the next layer, because when you get to that next segment of life, the next whatever landmark you want to call it, you know, whatever your next thing is, then there's something new that almost always pops up. You go, oh man, here we go. So it's a never-ending thing, no matter what the condition is, I think. Yeah. Have you so what's your like the span of people that you've worked with? Is it mostly young people? Is it mostly old, in the workforce? Like who are you working with?
I have worked people, I've worked with one teenager. I made an exception there because I prefer to work with adults. I prefer to work with people who actually want to be here and don't show up because their parents told them to. I worked with someone, with a teenager. Her mother, their mother, contacted me, and I responded. My first response was, I will only work with your child if they reach out to me themselves and tell me that they are intrinsically motivated to work with me, because I am not going to work with recalcitrant teenagers who do not want to be there. That is not where I shine.
That's smart.
So I work with one teenager, but some people in their 20s, mostly 30s, 40s, 50s. One of my favorite clients is late 70s. So it is the entire spectrum pretty much of adult ADHDers.
Man, and talking about peeling back that onion, man, I bet there's very different things that teenager is bringing up in the discussion versus the 70-something-year-old person. Like, though, to be a fly on the wall, just to hear the different discussions, man, that must be fascinating.
You would think, but actually, a lot of these people have so much in common.
Really?
Yes, and I realized that a lot of these people have never met each other. I have the luxury of talking all day, every day to ADHDers who are just such fantastic, wonderful people to talk to. But most people do not disclose, for example. So they might know a lot of people with ADHD in the workplace, but those people are not disclosing because they fear repercussions at work.
Sure.
So they are all very isolated. So it's only recently that I started a coaching group where I actually started bringing people together and having them talk to each other. And I have heard them say that it's been such a relief. And I'm talking about 20-year-olds talking to 40-year-olds and feeling finally understood. The 40-year-olds thinking, oh yes, this is you are hitting the nail on the head. This is exactly my experience. I'm so happy to be talking to you. So I feel like those distinctions really disappear when we're talking to each other as ADHD writers, because we've been so isolated that we tend to really focus on the commonalities that we now finally see in someone else.
Man,
which is just such a beautiful thing to see.
That's amazing. It's almost like feeling isolated in a crowd of 100,000 people. You know, you're like, you're not.
10% of the population. Yes.
Yeah. Oh man, it's true. Well, you know what? I think that's a pretty common sentiment that I've heard over the years on this show with just about anybody with an invisible condition, because you can feel all by yourself. And that's why at the beginning of the show, that's the thing I talk about every time. You always have a voice. You always have a community, because you're never alone, because even if you feel like it, because there's always somebody else out there that can identify with you, you know?
I think that you and I are on the same mission, just going about it in slightly different ways.
Right. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, it's awesome. I love it. That's kind of my favorite part of doing this show, is because you meet so many people that you're right. It might be slightly different, but the sentiment is the same. The idea is the same. So yeah, I love that. Well, I'll tell you what, I feel like this is a really good place for another break. One last break before the end of the show. We're going to do it. And don't worry, this QR code will be back in just a couple of minutes. There it goes. Bye-bye. We'll see you in just a couple minutes. And then we're going to finish out with some cool stories. I hope let's talk about some triumphs, man. I want to hear some good stuff that you've worked with your clients and some cool outcomes and stuff. So let's do that on the other side of the break. Stick around. We'll see you soon. I'd love to talk to you a little bit about our sponsor, Dunamis Marriages. And now, struggling marriages often lead to a dramatic sense of disconnection from your spouse that can seem suffocating. Even if your marriage is doing pretty well, you know, there is a way for you to thrive no matter what. Dunamis Marriages believes that God designed marriage to be a lifelong, heart-connected journey. and they're here to help you get there at Dunamis Marriages. Located in Colorado Springs, Colorado, their faith-based marriage intensive has an 83% success rate. I'm going to say that again, 83% success rate. Guiding couples through deep emotional healing and lasting transformation. Why is that important? Because most marriage counseling has a less than 10% success rate, leaving broken hearts and marriages in its wake. Led by Dr. Pauline Dillard, who brings over 42 years of marital wisdom, these marriage intensives are different. Typical marriage counseling is more of a once a week for an hour type of thing that can last for years and really end up getting you nowhere. The intensive model that Dr. Pauline uses brings couples together. Each session lasts about 2 to 3 hours and is conducted over 5 to 6 sessions. The time that you invest in a marriage intensive will combine biblical truth with proven psychological principles to restore communication, trust, and intimacy. At Dunamis Marriages, they don't just treat symptoms, they equip you with the tools to build a thriving, Christ-centered marriage. If you're ready to break free from frustration and rekindle your relationship God's way, act now. Visit DunamisMarriages.com today. That's DUNAMAS marriages.com. And take that first step toward a stronger, more fulfilling marriage. Build your marriage on a solid foundation and enjoy your spouse like you never thought possible.
Hi, I'm Jake, co-founder and CEO of One Hope. My friends and I started this company in 2007 out of the back of this truck on a mission to enrich people's lives through wine. Today, we've grown into a state-of-the-art Napa Valley winery that proudly houses a portfolio of award-winning wines which have touched lives through over 40,000 nonprofits at home and around the globe. And it's happening every day. Being rooted in local communities and contributing to initiatives that uplift neighborhoods, celebrate cultures, and promote community. It's what got us here. You see, through every bottle sold, your purchase can make a direct impact on the causes you care about. One Hope's cause of choice has given back over $10 million and counting.
Hey, how you doing? My name is Greg Russell. I'm the host of TechnologyTuesday.com. You can find us on the Conscious Business TV network every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the latest resources to help you make more money in your business. Join us on E360 TV. Come on.
All right, welcome back, everybody. We are back. We are almost done, though. Time flies when you're talking about cool stuff. And if you have not, if you're just joining us, please go back and watch the show from the beginning, because Susanne is doing some amazing things, and I can't wait for you to learn about it. And please scan the QR code. Everybody and anybody that is a writer, because there is a resource there. One more time, Susanne, quickly tell us what's at that QR code.
You will find a page that I created specifically for you, where you will find a free workbook that you can download, which will help you stay more motivated to pursue your writing goals, even on those days when you struggle, and help keep you focused. No matter what your condition is, whether you have ADHD or not, I do not require a doctor's note. This freebie you can just download yourself.
Do not require a doctor note. That's perfect. That's good. I like that. So all right. You've been working with people for 5 years. You've got to have some success stories. Let's talk about some of these stories, because these are the fun stuff. This is the fun stuff.
I do have success stories. I also have ADHD though, so my memory is pretty faulty, and I had to try hard. But absolutely, I have some cool stories.
You know what they say, memory is only the second thing to go, so it's okay. It's all right. I can relate. It's all right. Hit me. What you got?
My memory never arrived.
Oh,
Anyway,
man. All right.
looking at my trusted notebooks. Yes, cool stories. One of the cool stories. Okay, all my cool stories start sad. So cool story. I had someone contact me who was a romance novelist, which I thought was really cool. She came to me. She said, "Look, I had my big breakthrough like 6 months ago. I'm a self-published author. I've been writing for a while, but 6 months ago, I had a book that just blew up, and it was going to be part 1 of 2. Now, this success suddenly put a lot of pressure on her. And because of that pressure, it became harder and harder to write, because every time she wrote a sentence, she felt it had to be perfect. And every time she logged into social media, there were nasty messages from fans who were getting angry with her for not yet having finished the second book, because the first one ended with a cliffhanger. Now, it got to such a point that she actually had writer's block. She literally couldn't write for 3 months. She would sit down at her computer and stare at a blank screen, not knowing what to do. She was just completely stuck because all the pressure had been mounting up, and she had now set the standard so high for herself that it just wasn't possible anymore. Ugh. So the first thing I told her, or this was the first time I really realized how many ADHD writers actually develop a toxic relationship with their writing. So I told you that a lot of us ADHDers carry a lot of shame and guilt around. You said that that's true for a lot of people with invisible conditions, but it's absolutely true for ADHDers as well.
Yeah.
And the shame and guilt actually start to feel a little bit comfortable. Because we have been raised to believe, and I think this is a cultural thing as well as an ADHD thing. We've been raised to believe that if you work hard, then that means that you should be suffering. If you're not suffering, you're not working hard enough.
Oh, geez.
Right?
No.
Does that sound familiar?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard that a lot. I don't believe it in a million years, but I've heard it so much. Yeah. Yeah.
So it was definitely part of my Protestant upbringing, and I know that there's a lot of people out there who grew up the same way, and this is something that a lot of ADHDers believe as well, because we struggled in school. We didn't always struggle with getting good grades. I got great grades in school, but we did struggle each in our own ways. Maybe socially, maybe the grades were good, but it was just night after night of not sleeping because you forgot about this deadline and now suddenly you have a paper due. There was a lot of suffering involved. Now, if you start to believe that hard work means suffering, then you're going to start denying yourself the joy, and you're going to hold on to this shame and this guilt and this fear.
Yeah.
And that means you get to a point where every time you think about writing, you just feel the shame and guilt and fear, and there's nothing else there anymore. You completely lost sight of the reason why you started writing in the first place.
Yeah.
And honestly, 90% of the people who find me are at that point, because that is the point at which they actually start actively searching for an ADHD writing coach. Because you don't search for an ADHD writing coach if you think, hey, maybe I should try my hand at writing a novel, right?
Right.
So,
yeah.
So this woman came to me. She was down in the dumps. She had all this pressure on her. I said, okay, let's forget about the book, because you're not going to write it anyway at this point.
Or not well, anyway.
No, it's not going to happen. You've tried for 3 months. You keep telling yourself you should just try harder. It hasn't worked for you, so maybe that is not the way to go. And I told her, it's time to follow the joy. It's time to figure out, it's time to reconnect to the reason why you started writing in the first place. So we started talking, and I asked her about other writing ideas she had. And she said, oh yeah, I have a list of ideas, but I wouldn't allow myself to touch it until this book was done. And this book is not getting done, so I can't allow myself to do the things that I want to do. You have to eat your vegetables first, right? So I told her to just grab dessert. I said, there's no pressure. You're not going to publish this. Just start writing something that holds your interest. Start connecting with the joy of writing again. A month later, she had her novella written. She published it because suddenly the pressure was gone. She didn't have to publish it, so now she could. And her fans ate it up, and they even forgave her for not yet having written the second book. So then we worked together. She published the second book as well, and I'm still getting updates from her, but she doesn't need my help anymore because she has broken through this toxic relationship that just kept draining her and pulling her lower, and is now living her best life.
Oh, man. And tell me again, if you said it before, I apologize. I didn't quite catch it. Where is she in the world? Just out of curiosity.
She was in Florida, in the US.
In Florida. Okay. And is that normally, you said is that a lot of your clientele is in the US, or is it all over the world?
I think half is in the US. And then I work with, my mornings start with people in Australia. Then in the afternoons, I have my Europeans. And in the evenings, I talk to the Americans. Yep.
Nice. You know what? I got to say, I love that because, I mean, if you mentioned COVID earlier in the episode, if it didn't teach us anything, it taught us that we can now, I mean, Zoom used to be the weirdest thing. Like nobody knew what to do with it. Now everybody knows what to do with it. And it's being so, there's some network. I mean, I wouldn't know the 90% of the people I've worked with over the last couple of years if it weren't for Zoom. Right. And that became a huge thing. And so you never know where some of that's going to come from. Some of that cool stuff, I love that. Well, we got about a minute left. I know time flies, but we are almost done. What would you like to leave our audience with in the next minute or so?
So many of us, and I think this is particularly true for your audience, so many of us have an ideal, a picture of who a real adult is supposed to be, how they're supposed to behave, what they're supposed to, right? There's this ideal of humanity, an ideal of what you're supposed to embody.
Yeah.
I think that when you have a brain that doesn't work the way normal brains work, or you have a body that doesn't quite work the way medicine says a body is supposed to work, that actually gives you an opportunity to start rethinking this ideal. You are probably not that ideal right now. Maybe it's time to stop beating yourself up over it. Maybe it is time to just look at where you are, get the help that you need to get to where you want to go, rather than this idea that someone at some point has planted in your head about who you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
I think that is the main message that I would like to spread around the world.
I love it. That is so cool. And I'm sure there are people listening, watching this going, oh, light bulb, there's some minds exploding right now, I'm sure. And you're gonna get some response from that, because that's amazing.
I hope so. I always love connecting to people and hearing other people's stories. So please reach out.
Bring it on. Yeah. Well, thank you, Susanne. Thank you so much for being here and for being so transparent and real about what you've gone through and how you're helping people. And just thank you for everything you're doing. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It was an absolute pleasure talking to you.
Thank you. All right, man. Oops. There we go. There we go. Oh my goodness. You learn something new every day. And I learn something new every show. And I love it. She's cool. We might have to do that again sometime. Boy, everybody, thank you for being here. Thank you so much. I so appreciate you, each and every one of you in my audience. I appreciate you so much. Thank you for being here. If you've been here from the beginning, thank you. If this is your first episode you're watching, thank you. Join us for our next show. In fact, here, I'm going to put this up here too. No matter where you're watching from, thank you for your comments. Thank you for reaching out. Thank you for being here. And like, subscribe, share, all the things. We're all familiar with social media, right? Subscribe to the YouTube channel, share the episode with people that you think would enjoy it, and join us for our next episode, which will be Tuesday, June 10th, for another amazing story. Until then, have an amazing day, and we will see you next time.